Perfect. The Native Village of Georgetown has not taken a position regarding Donlin Gold and is offering this webinar series for educational purposes. We are pleased to offer this learning space and ask for your cooperation to help ensure a safe environment and ask that we all work together to have a respectful dialogue. Disruptive individuals may be removed from the webinar. For our second episode, we're really glad to be joined by ONC. Today we have with us Gloria Simeon, Robert Hoffman, ONC Council members, and Mary Matthias, the ONC Environmental Coordinator. I'm now going to pass it off to them to let them introduce themselves, and then they'll give a short presentation that will be followed by a question and answer period. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. My name is Mary Matthias. I'm the Environmental Program Coordinator for Orutsararmiut Native Council. And today we will be presenting our opposition towards the Donlin link. So, and then here's Robert.
I'm Robert Hoffman. I'm affiliated with the Orutsararmiut Council.
Good afternoon. Kuinga alabajuk jalisu jangak jabayum banya tuhkak jalisu pelagia dutavaluk mamklislu liunga. Good afternoon and thank you. Welcome. My name is Gloria Simeon. I'm the daughter of Anita Gertz and the granddaughter of Eddie Hoffman and Pelagia Hoffman. And I come from the native village of Mamklisluk. Welcome, and I see familiar names here as participants. Nice to know that you're participating and welcome the opportunity to present ONC's position on the Donlin line by presenting this PowerPoint that our staff has prepared for us. So we'll continue with the PowerPoint, protecting our way of life on the Kuskokwim. The mission of the Orutsararmiut Traditional Native Council is to promote the general welfare, enhance independence, encourage self-sufficiency, self-motivation, enhance quality of life, and preserve cultural and traditional values of the tribe, and exercise tribal authority over resources through educational, economic, and social development opportunities. ONC values are tribal sovereignty, living a subsistence lifestyle passed down from our ancestors for millennium. We embody the importance of salmon, edrominous fish, berries, moose, herbal medicine plants that are important for our elders, community, and for all seasons. We recognize the strong connection between our health and the environment, and that clean water is unity. And we are responsible for passing on generational traditional values to our children and our grandchildren. The threat, proposed Donlin Gold Mine. This would be the largest open pit pure gold mine in the world, including the infrastructure, increased barge traffic, tailings dam, waste rock piles, natural gas pipeline barges, which would be 122 trips up and down the river throughout the summer months, water treatment facilities, airstrips, and other infrastructure that would also be damaging to our barge traffic, impact our subsistence, interference on the river between mine activity and use is competition that we don't need. Also the impact on smelt and their spawning grounds in the Kuskokwim. This would also add increased erosion on the Kuskokwim, having huge impact on neighboring communities who are already facing degradation through erosion. The huge tailings dam, a byproduct from mining, and here we mentioned just one, but there's a possibility of more tailings dams. The leaks and spills from these chemicals, these deadly chemicals, mercury, cyanide, and arsenic, would be devastating. Also, the impacts to the air quality, land, and human health. Increased mercury in our environment, in the fish and berries that we consume, would present health risks, particularly to the children and to pregnant women. Health risks from these chemicals include harm to the nervous system, to the lungs, and to the kidneys. Impacts from the 360-mile line, increased infrastructure, and 9 camps to support the pipeline, social impacts from the pipeline, and increased competition for subsistence resources for our people. This is a map of the transportation route along the Kuskokwim River to the proposed vision. Donlin has claimed that if there was ever a spill, the chemicals would be included by the time they reach the many important streams or 50 miles from the spill, but there are no assurances or signs to prove that. Next slide. The history, land, and climate change. Our land, the tundra, the permafrost, the numerous lakes that we have scattered throughout the Delta are like a sponge. We're already facing devastation like we've never seen before because of climate change on our land, on our rivers, in the weather patterns. We cannot handle. It looks like we're having a problem here. The host has stopped our video.
Oh, sorry, I just was trying to see if the audio quality was decaying a bit, so I was just trying to save bandwidth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the climate change, we've had extreme weather conditions that we've never experienced before, particularly in the summer when we've had these extreme heat and high temperatures, concerns over spawning salmon, lightning strikes throughout the Delta, and fires in places and in numbers that we've never seen before, where there's no assurance that those tailing pond liners can withstand lightning strikes or the fire hazard that exists now. The concern of permafrost melting, erosion and flooding, changes in our salmon and ability to harvest our subsistence resources, and the fact that our villages, our region is not prepared for any catastrophic failure of any part of these assurances that have been given to us by the mining company. And in further history of federal permitting, 2012, Donlin submitted applications for federal permits. 2018, the final EIS, environmental impact statement, was issued. Dredge and fill permits under 404 of the Clean Water Act were those issued. And a joint decision was made by the Army Corps of Engineers, I assume is that, and the Bureau of Land Management. There was an agreement that mitigation for damage to the land in any part of the construction of this proposed pipeline would not necessarily be for the land that was destroyed, that there are arrangements for them to mitigate land in areas outside of the state, outside of the region, along the Kenai Peninsula, in exchange for destroying pristine land along the pipeline, should all of this be approved. Tribal consultation was inadequate and at times, sometimes inexistent, non-existent for our participation. Of the 66 tribes identified in the project area, only 6 participated as cooperating agencies with the Army Corps of Engineers, the lead federal permitting agency. ONC was not adequately notified or on the opportunity to participate, nor what it would be to be a cooperating agency. And regarding the state of Alaska, the state has issued dozens of permits from various agencies for the Donlin Gold, from water rights to fish habitat destruction to water quality and gas pipeline permits. ONC and other tribes throughout the YK Delta have repeatedly requested government-to-government consultation, and the state of Alaska agencies, the Department of Fish and Game, the Department of Natural Resources, and the Department of Environmental Conservation have declined our requests. The state of Alaska has silenced our tribal voices. ONC received correspondence letters from the Commissioner of DNR on October 20th, 2020, declining to meet for government-to-government consultation in response to ONC's request to the state of Alaska. Also, we wrote a letter in 2018 that stated its declination. They wrote a letter in 2018 that stated its declination to provide government-to-government consultation, and its refusal to accept tribes as sovereign nations, instead chooses to recognize tribes as public individuals of communities in Alaska. During this whole process, Donlin began educating its partners in Canada about all ports and for the rest of the world. They didn't know about the opposition rising up from our tribe and other tribes from the Kuskokwim River, and our voices are not. We've requested to be part of decision-making processes because we maintain traditional ecological knowledge and values of being subsistence gatherers. We want to make sure our natural resources remain protected so that we can continue living a healthy traditional subsistence lifestyle that has been embedded deep into our ways of life. Also relating to opposition, Yukon Corporation Board opposed the Donlin mine through resolution in 2016. 2018, 13 tribes issued resolutions opposing Donlin. Ourselves, Shafornik, Chalunawik, Imanik, Ik, Kasiluk, Kangignak, Quigilingak, Napakiak, Nixtamute, Nightmute, Nunapichak, Quinahak, Tuliksak, and Tununek. In 2019, convention resolution at the AVCP annual convention opposed the Donlin mine. In 2019, again, the National Congress of American Indians passed a resolution opposing both the Pebble and Donlin proposed mines. The resolution passed by the Orutsararmiut Traditional Native Council, Resolution 180203, states that our nation opposes the proposed development, construction, and operation of the Donlin Creek mine due to the extreme hazard and excessive risk it would pose to the well-being, health, and welfare of the people of the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. A 2021 survey of our tribal citizens, over 300 tribal citizens of the Orutsararmiut Traditional Native Council and Alaskan residents participated. 70% have low confidence that the Donlin Gold Mine project will protect the region's air, water, and land resources. 67% feel strongly opposed to the mine project. Less than 6% feel strongly in support of the mine. 66 or less are aware of the Donlin Gold Mine project's plans for transporting substances like mercury and cyanide. Only less than 20% have seen the plan. 69% feel they have not had a chance to learn everything they want to know about the gold mine project. Why is ONC opposed to Donlin? Risks to our subsistence lifestyle from pollution and hazardous waste, increased land erosion, failure to protect salmon spawning grounds, tributaries, and other anadromous fish habitat. The health impacts, particularly for young children and mothers. Mercury is very high risk for pregnant women, and we have one of the highest birth rates in the country in the YK Delta. Our Kuskokwim River is the second largest river in Alaska, 720 miles long, with 38 communities that hold 4,600 households. The potential for destruction of our salmon habitat is too high of a risk, and the use of dewatering salmon streams at the proposed Donlin Gold Mine site will put further stress on protecting our water under the Clean Water Act. Increased concentrations of mercury and arsenic will be found in surface water and in the sediments, further affecting and impacting our resources. And our health is already determined by the Yukon-Kuskokwim Health Corporation through research, has proved conclusively that our health is tied to our ability to access our traditional and customary food sources. The risks to our land include the entire Delta. Our land is like a sponge. All the lakes and rivers and sloughs and creeks are all connected. 6,500 acres of wetlands disturbed or destroyed. These are immediate. 32.7 miles of streams directly destroyed that could impact all streams and water from spills or leaks. Increased risk from climate change, which we're already experiencing, impacts on how the environment is changing and how that will impact safety measures. Increased emissions from the mine contributing to already uncertainty with climate change. And mercury doesn't disappear. Mercury circles around the globe. It doesn't only affect us, it affects the whole world cumulatively. The risk to our water. The mine pit would be full of water and require treatment. Don't ever be safe for anything. And we don't see where there are plans that deal with in perpetuity. And there are no assurances there. Increased concentration of mercury and arsenic in the surface water and sediments. The upper Kuskokwim already has naturally occurring mercury that enters into our environment. We can't add more. We cannot add more toxic chemicals to our environment. Our people would be exposed to these concentrations of mercury and arsenic in the surface and water and sediment, also in the air, in the plants, in the berries, in all our fish and wildlife. And a pond dam failure is, in my imagination, a failure that catastrophic would kill everything downriver, upriver, in the air, our land, our water. Those amounts of toxic waste at one time, we just can't. We can't afford that. The next slide is an image of a tailings pond failure in Brazil. We are afraid that same mining failure and devastation could occur in our region. This is real. This is real throughout the United States, throughout the world, and especially where Indigenous people live and there are no laws to protect them from what the mining companies are doing to the land and what they leave behind. The 315 pipeline and the risks that would occur with the construction of 315 miles of pipeline from Cook Inlet to the mine location in pristine, clean wilderness, buried underground except for at the fault lines, crossing more than 150 salmon streams. It would involve a 150-foot wide corridor for the pipeline and access roads. Increased erosion, traffic, and infrastructure would be required to construct this pipeline. 12 airstrips, 9 camps, and there is no evidence that proves that the pipeline would lower natural gas prices for the people of our region for the price that we would have to pay, sacrificing our land, our water, and our air. increased industrialization, as well as impact on our river. Proposed would be 122 additional round trips per year over the summer. And this would result in damaging spawning areas for rainbow smelt, as well as we don't know whatever else. There would be a need for increased infrastructure. We certainly know that there would be increased erosion, increased hunting and fishing pressure on our resources, and the loss of people from local communities. In conclusion, our way of life is irreplaceable and precious. We must protect our lands, our culture, our ways of life, and this project is too big of a risk to place on the backs of our future generations.
The following slides are quotes from tribes and Native organizations that oppose the Donlin Mine project.
The National Congress of American Indians, Resolution ABQ 19030. Be it further resolved that the NCAI is opposed to any mineral developments that would have any negative impacts to the traditional fish and wildlife without consent of the affected tribal nation. Studies are being done, but none can predict the effects of mercury cyanide and other disruptions in the Yukon-Kuskokwim ecosystem in 100 years when our grandchildren are living here, and failure would devastate the fisheries on the Kuskokwim River and its tributaries, thus negatively impacting the health of the people of the region. Yukon-Kuskokwim Health Corporation Resolution number 160404. Kasigaluk Traditional Council agrees that if Donlin Gold is developed, there will be the probability of devastating impacts on the environment, water, fish, and wildlife. The spawning areas, our fish, and the calving grounds of our wildlife will be at risk. The risks of health for our tribal members will be at risk, and the tributaries of the Kuskokwim. Kasigaluk Traditional Council Resolution 18-12. Chalunawik Native Village. Opposition to the Donlin Gold Mine is based on the inevitable destruction of our traditional and cultural heritage practices of the subsistence gathering on those lands affected by Donlin Gold Mine. It proposes a threat to our environment and fisheries of the Yukon and Kuskokwim River that provide nutritional value to over 56 villages that store-bought food not buy. Discharge of toxics into Crooked Creek and the Pitts Lake required water treatment in perpetuity, leaving grounds once rich with life left for dead. That loss will be left in the hands of our children and our children's children. Resolution number 18-03. Native Village of We cannot support this future destruction. Despite promises of environmentally safe protocols and procedures, until it is proven safe, industrial mining and development with guaranteed restoration within 20 to 30 years of development is possible worldwide, our tribes cannot commit to the operation of Donlin Gold Mine. Resolution number 8. Chivac Traditional Council opposes the development of the Donlin Gold and all its operations for reasons of the irreversible of the ecosystem and the environment along the Kuskokwim and especially for the Yukon-Kuskokwim people's future generations, and finally to preserve the clean waters of the Kuskokwim and the Bering Sea coast. Resolution 2018-08-14A. Tulitsak Village Council against the development and operation of the Donlin Gold Project mine due to the extreme ruin, destruction, and danger it should pose to the Yurok and welfare in the indigenous people of the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta region. Resolution number 18-17-01. AVCP resolution 19-09-10. Even when all safety measures are exercised, there are disastrous accidents prone to happen due to human error when mine support activities are carried out. And we can all imagine the devastation to the Kuskokwim fish and wildlife and every person that relies on the Kuskokwim River for their lives. Catastrophe occur. Leanne, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm just getting my Zoom settings figured out. Thank you so much, Gloria and Mary. We are now entering the question and answer period. If you're on Zoom, we'd ask that you raise your hand if you're able to. If not, you can also type your question in the chat. Another option, if you're on the phone, I'm also going to be calling out periodically to the phone so you can unmute yourself. I know it's always harder when you're on the phone if you have any questions to ask them. So now that I'll just start by asking if anyone on the phone has any questions.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Stephen Alexei. I'm with Donlin Gold. I have a question for Gloria Simeon as she noted the study they did of the 300 people. How many tribal members does ONC have?
How many tribal members?
4,500 and last count was over 4,500.
So the study you guys did are overly stated numbers from my point, 300 compared to 4,000 tribal members.
I think that
I
that
just wanted
survey
to
was,
point that out. Thanks.
We're still receiving surveys in the mail, so by the time we've received everything, we'll have like a whole tally. So,
did this, how far out was the survey distributed? Was it household or
based on household and individuals,
in region or out of region?
both.
Okay, so it went to all of our tribal citizens that had mailing addresses, Stephen. And we're still getting survey results in.
Thank you. Does anyone else on the phone have a question? *6 if you're on your phone, just so you know to unmute yourself. You can press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. Okay,
Nice.
does anyone, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, just commenting, it's nice to see familiar names. Andrea grown up with her children. Hi, buddy, how you doing?
I'm fine. It's nice to hear your voice. Good to see you.
You tell your mom hi.
I will.
Vernon, Jim, Samantha, Ryan. Thank you for participating and listening to our presentation. You too, Jonathan.
And oh no, I was just going to say if anyone has any questions. Sorry, I was just asking people to give. I was asking people on the phone, but at this point, if anyone has any questions, we could go for it. They can ask. I see a question in the chat. What from Lindsay, I believe. Why do you think the project is moving forward with the majority of tribes being opposed?
I really can't answer that question where we have a state administration that hasn't been very kind in its relationship to the tribes. I don't know. I don't understand. We've also been working with our legal team to do all we can to protect our river, and we get regular updates on that. Lindsay, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I wish we had the kind of support opposing the Donlin as the people have opposing the Pebble mine.
Any other?
Lacking a unified tribal voice to represent the majority of the tribes on this issue has also hurt us. We don't have a way to unify our tribes. There are many tribes, the majority of them opposing this mine, but we don't have a venue to gather to be more active in opposing this. And the state of Alaska, like I mentioned, has not been kind to even inviting us to the table to have nation-to-nation consultation on these issues. So those are things that are working against us. Thank you, Lindsay.
And we have another question. Can you tell us more about the mercury and methyl mercury and how that will affect Alaska? And this question is in the chat from Aaron.
You know, I see that Grant Fairbanks is on, and I think Grant has done considerable research in the effects of mercury and methyl mercury on the environment, as well as on the health and well-being of the people. And as I mentioned before, there is natural occurring mercury in the upper Kuskokwim, and we cannot, having a choice to put an additional burden on our environment is something that we have the power to do. The naturally occurring, we don't have any way to change that, but we have the power to decide whether we're going to add more toxicity to our already stressed environment. Maybe Grant can add something to that.
Through the resources that the communities have.
And additionally, our villages do not have the resources. We do not have the resources to even have the baselines to know what's already, but we certainly know that our region struggles with already the health impacts that we have with where health and heart disease, cancer. Already know we have those health disparities. We have to add more, especially with the high rate of birth in this region. We can't put our babies at more risk. Thank you.
Grant, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure. The fugitive mercury that the EPA will allow Donlin to release either through the stack or through the water. When we first did the calculations, it looked like it was going to be a couple of thousand pounds a year. And that's disturbing. The area where the mine is in the middle of what we call the Kuskokwim mercury belt. The heavy metals that are already present is one thing, but then when you take the moss off and uncover the natural rocks, and then you mine it and grind it and process it, they're going to release a lot of mercury, which will become then ethyl methyl mercury, and then that can go into the fish and the people can get it. We still don't know how or if the EPA is going to have a good handle on this. And so that's one of the things we're really worried about, is the fugitive heavy metals, mercury, and all that stuff. So we still don't have a good mine plan that details out their facility, what they're going to do with it. And they have never told us where they're going to take the mercury. It's illegal to export mercury out of the United States, and the only place you can legally keep it is someplace in Texas. The mine has never told us what they're going to do with the mercury, whether they're going to take it off site or they're going to bury it. If they had decided to do dry stacking, we wouldn't have such a big problem, but they're cutting corners and not going to do dry stacking. So we're not going to know for a while, probably until the mine starts operating, if it does, what kind of release we'll have. So it's just a concern.
Thank you, Grant.
Mhm. Thank
Sorry
you.
for putting.
And Lindsay in the chat shared an in-depth presentation on mercury concerns here and shared a YouTube link. So if anyone's interested. Daniel Graham, I see that your hand's up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Barbara, for including us in this, and thanks, Gloria and Mary, for your time. So just a couple quick things. On the mercury, Aaron, that you asked about, so I believe it's in 2 or 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Donlin has been given the opportunity to give a presentation, and we will expand quite a bit. We know the mercury is a very major concern on the project, and we'll be presenting information on that. We did a significant amount of additional work this summer to do some more testing of soils, vegetation, and water, and redid the analysis. And we'll happy to share those results there that shows that the potential increase to mercury is actually near zero on that. And in response to Grant's comment, we've several times the project has shown, and we've made a full commitment to remove the mercury from the site and from the region for disposal. That's in the project plans. And then my final one, Mary and Gloria, with all respect, I noticed on slide 11, you made a mention there about the ONC members wanting to learn more about the project and don't feel like they've learned enough about it. And we continue to extend our open invitation to meet with you folks at your request and come in. And I think all of these are extremely valid concerns. I have no doubt about it whatsoever. Actually, yeah, no doubt about that there's validity to all these concerns. But I think the only way we can get through it is to just spend time together talking through them, and we can give you some more of the details, what's behind things. Maybe we'll identify some areas where we need to do a little more work. We've done a lot of work on rainbow smelt as a result of concerns raised previously, and continue to do those studies and learn new things about that species. So as I said, I think the only way to really get through this stuff is if we can be given the opportunity to have direct dialogue with you. So we welcome that opportunity, and it's a standing offer.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to touch on Dan's point, we will be hosting Donlin on January 26th, and just before the week before, so in 2 weeks and the week before, so next week we'll be hosting Chillista. And we're really grateful for everyone who's participating in this. It's really interesting and informative. So thank you all for taking the time. Are there any other questions? Any other comments?
Stay safe and stay well, everyone.
I'm just going to give, if anyone on the phone has any questions. Otherwise, if we have no questions, we'll be able to. Okay. Well, thank you again, everyone, for participating. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Gloria, Robert, Mary, for coming. We really appreciate you taking the time, and thank you. I know that we have people from Chillista, Donlin, and TKC, and everyone else, coming and participating in this discussion. It's really informative and important. Just like we will share this recording when it's available on our website. I'll put the link in the chat, and hopefully see you next week when we'll be hosting Chillista, and the week afterwards when we have Donlin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary and Muffet and Robert and Barbara.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to listen and understand.
Thank you for coming.